On this episode, we are joined by special guest Seb Barlow of Neck Deep. We talk about how he got into the creative side of music, Neck Deep's formation. We hit on all of the Neck Deep albums. We discuss him joining the band as the full-time bassist in 2020. And we also hit on the current and future plans for the band. I'm a huge Neck Deep fan. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody who listens to the podcast. So needless to say, this was an absolute honor on my part, and I really hope you enjoy it as much as I did. What's happening, folks? Welcome back to the 182 News Podcast. We have a very special guest today, someone who I've been super stoked to chat with, Seb Barlow of Neck Deep. Seb, how are you?
I'm good, man. Chilling, hanging out, easy day. Yeah, looking forward to having a chat about Neck Deep and Blink and music. Yeah.
For sure, man. It's a rare treat to chat with somebody who's in one of my favorite bands. So I appreciate you taking time to jump on the podcast. I hate bothering everybody about this kind of thing, but I appreciate you jumping on.
Not a bother at all, man. I appreciate you.
Let's start pre-Neck Deep. I want to get an understanding of how you got into the creative side of music. Is there a particular thing that inspired you, or was there a certain instrument you picked up? Like, when did you get into music creatively?
I think I'm trying to piece the timeline together of what came first, but early music memory of playing music. My first experience of playing music was in a band in high school, and we just did Nirvana covers, and I played bass then too. But we didn't play any shows or anything. But we just went into a rehearsal room at lunchtime and played Nirvana covers, which was cool. But Blink, always Blink. All roads lead back to Blink. Blink were the ones that made me take music more seriously, or even take it more seriously is the wrong phrasing, but really enjoy and dive into music. All the first songs I learned on guitar were Blink songs. But I can't remember which of those two came first, if I was already playing along to Blink songs and then did that, or if the Nirvana cover thing was first, or which way. I can't really remember. But when I was 14, Shikari was really big in the UK when I was they're still big now, but Shikari, a lot of people loved Shikari. So I was in a kind of metal synth band for a year or something when I was 14. But it was with a few guys that were older than me. But that was my first time singing, I suppose. My friend Bam, who was the guitarist in that band, actually sent me a video of that very first practice the other day, and I was 14. It was weird. It was weird that I remembered it like it was yesterday. As soon as I saw the thumbnail, I was oh shit, I remember this video. I remember hearing myself back, and I wasn't a good singer by any means, but I definitely wasn't bad either. I was pleasantly surprised that 14-year-old me was just doing something that I'd never done before. So that was my first real band, I suppose. We played a couple shows, nothing crazy. And then I started a pop, electro thing with Sammy from Waster, the vocalist of Waster. We kind of grew up together when we were, from 14, 15, something like that. But when we were about 16, we did that together. And that's when I really got into production and that kind of thing, because I just didn't have the money to be able to go to a studio and try and explain to someone what I wanted something to sound like. So that was my first time getting into production, and finding my feet with production was through pop music and electronic music, and no real instruments. It was all digital. And I got a laptop when I got to college and things like that. So that's the long and short of it. And then not long after, after the thing that me and Sammy did together, I was I want to know how people I like metal too, and I wanted to know how metal music's got to sound the way it did almost. So then I was okay, I want to do real bands with real guitars and real drums and things like that. And I did that for a long time, and then ended up in Neck Deep.
I didn't realize you were in a band with Sammy. I love Waster.
Yeah, me and Sammy did it. I'm not going to say the name of it on this because it's a little cringy, and there is still stuff online. So I'm going to keep the name private. I'll show you after, but
Okay.
I'll keep the name out of the public for as long as I can.
So was the first instrument you picked up bass?
Yeah, I guess this is
Wow.
it. I'm not sure which came first. Like I say, I can't remember if I was playing Blink songs first or if I did the Nirvana thing first. But Blink was all like guitar, but the Nirvana thing was just bass. But I can't remember which way around. I want to say it was guitar first. I want to say Blink. I was playing Blink songs before I was playing bass in a Nirvana cover band.
Which Blink album was it that spawned this? Is this Enema or Takeoff?
I think it was Takeoff. Yeah, it
Okay.
was it was right as I was trying to think about this before I came on the call. Like I've thought about it a few times. Like I can't pinpoint exactly which record it was because What's My Age Again and All the Small Things and stuff were like still on TV. I mean, they're still on TV now, but I definitely remember seeing the first date video. So I can't like it was right on that period of like end of Enema, start of Takeoff that I kind of got into them. So like early 2000, 2001. Pretty sure that was then. But I was learning mostly Takeoff songs. Yeah,
Gotcha.
and a lot of Takeoff.
So leading up, I guess, to 2012 Neck Deep's formation, like what are you doing in the few years before that? Are you fully into producing full time? Is that a side gig for your friends? Like, I'm just curious.
That was me full time. Yeah, I was producing and recording and mixing music for how many years? I started offering that to other people in like 2008, 2009. And then I guess I was doing that for damn, maybe like 10 years. I never had a quote unquote real job. I had like a couple jobs when I was 16, 17, just in like a grocery store and like a clothes shop and stuff. But I just never wanted to be there. I was never interested. So I kind of just put everything into music production. And my parents were cool enough to always let five random dudes come around to the house and scream into microphones and make loads of noise. But I was doing that full time. Lucky enough that I was still living with my parents. I didn't have to think too hard about making rent and things like that. So yeah, I was pretty much production and writing and recording full time for like 10 years before Neck Deep.
Did you realize at that point, like playing in a band, did you not like that side of things and you wanted to focus on the production, or did those bands just not work out and you fell into that?
Yeah, I was always more. I'm still a home bird. Like I love being at home. I love my comfort. I love my couch. I love my dogs and my girl. And like at the time, there was plenty of opportunities for me to be able to like go in bands and tour, but the tours were always just like whatever. And I wasn't really down to be like sleeping on people's couches and like all the rest of it. I'm a pretty anxious person too, so like the thought of just like the randomness and like the things left to chance. It wasn't really my thing of like, well, we'll see when we get there and we'll figure out where we're gonna go. Like that wasn't really my thing. Um, so yeah, it was. I got all the what's the word? I got all the everything I was looking for out of music through producing. So I still got to like write music with people and hang out with bands and yeah, I kind of got my fix and my love for music through recording, I suppose. But then by the time the Neck Deep thing came along to me being in the band, it was like, oh, you guys are on buses and it's chill. Yeah,
Yeah, you jumped in right when there's like an established fan base, crowds.
for sure.
Neck Deep's formation. So 2012 rolls around. Legend has it you are recording a band called Spires, and the whole Neck Deep story, man, and the members. It's really
Hmm.
fascinating, and you guys even poked fun of it on a T-shirt recently, where it's basically Spires and Climates and Ben and you, just kind of couple bands meshed together. But legend
Hmm.
has it there's a band you're recording called Spires that has Matt West and former Neck Deep guitarist Lloyd at the time.
Hmm.
And you have a younger brother, Ben, who's hanging around the sessions and ultimately wants to jump on a track. Like, what's the origin story of Neck Deep here?
So it started, like you say, with Spires, and that was Lloyd West, our friend George, our friend Johnny, and our friend Henry. Um, at some point, George left. I can't really remember why or whatever happened with George. But so West and Lloyd were in the band, and I met both those guys in college in like 2008, and they were one of the first, if not the first, bands that I offered my services to for free. Or maybe that I just asked for pizza or something. I was just like, just buy me a pizza and I'll be good. Just keep me fed and watered, and I'll do the rest because I learned everything on the job. Like I went to college and uni for music production, but those were more of a they were more of a thing to keep my parents off my back. So they knew that I was like in education and doing something and working towards something. But I was learning everything through just doing it myself. And I think I can say that about most things. It's just throw yourself in at the deep end and make lots of mistakes and do it that way. But yeah, that's how I met Lloyd and West. So we were doing Spires. They did a couple EPs. They did pretty well. They did okay. They did all right in the UK, and they toured Europe a few times and played some cool shows. But yeah, when the time came when they didn't have a vocalist, like I said, I can't remember why George wasn't in the band anymore. But Ben was like, "Oh, let me try and be the vocalist," even though he'd never. It was like hardcore music or like melodic hardcore, so it was like just screaming. So I think he tried out screaming, and it was like, "Ew, maybe not. Like you're cool and you're a good hang and like, but maybe not be in this band." And he was like, okay. But Ben just really wanted to play music or like be in a band. And his thing with Neck Deep always was just, I just want to play one show. I want the feeling of playing one show. And that was it really. Like he asked Lloyd, can you write some pop punk songs? Can you and Seb write a pop punk song or whatever? And like, just let me try it. And we wrote What Did You Expect? And that was it. That was, yeah, we put that online and people really liked it. And then we put out, I think we did 6 months maybe after that. I couldn't wait to leave 6 months ago. Um, but that was kind of it. But like, and then the Climate connection was through Spires too. So Spires were a touring band and they met Climate, who are a similar like melodic hardcore band that they met at like festivals and things like that. So I think Spires and Climate toured a couple times together, and that's where Sam, Phil, and Pals come into the equation because those guys were all in Climates. And then Climates went on to be Blood Youth, which were a band until recently too. And Sam was in Blood Youth and Pals was in Blood Youth. I think Phil had already left Climates to do Neck Deep full time before they became Blood Youth. But yeah, it's weird. I'm pretty sure that's the connection, was just Spires and touring and playing the same festivals and things like that. But yeah, I think that's the long and short of it. That's kind of how it all came together.
Had Ben shown any interest prior to that in singing? Like, was he always just hanging around when you're producing bands, trying to jump on records, or was this like the first tryout for him?
No, he'd done stuff before. Like I found the CD kind of recently somewhere, or maybe it was at my mum's house. But Ben did a little solo acoustic EP when he was like 15 or 16 or something like that. It was good, man. Like for a fucking 15-year-old writing music, like it was good. It's a little cheesy at points, and I'm sure he's cringing and like not. It's the same with me of like not revealing old bands' names. He's like probably never wants that music out there, but it was cool. So he was definitely already interested in music. He was playing acoustic guitar and doing covers and like writing songs here and there. So he definitely wasn't fresh to it. He played guitar with my girlfriend. My girlfriend Laura was singing at points, and she had a gig and I couldn't do it, and he like filled in for her. So those two played a show together, and I think maybe he got a taste for that of being in front of like 300-400 people and playing guitar and singing. But yeah, he was just pestering for a long time. I think it took like 3, 4, 5 months to like get to the point where we were like, okay, let's try a pop punk song. Let's see how it sounds. Um, but yeah, he just liked to hang. He was always just knocking around and poking his head in and hanging and chatting and vibing. Yeah, he was into it. And even before that, like I say, when me and Sammy were in a band and writing music, just the two of us, he was really into that too, and liked being around for those things. And yeah, even then was like comfortable throwing ideas, and yeah, he was always into it. So it definitely wasn't his first like thing, but yeah, yeah.
When you guys release What Did You Expect? I mean, was there something there that you heard that made this seem like it has some potential or a little special, or was it just a song you put out with your friends and your brother?
Um, it's really hard to tell. Like I still feel like this now where like you never really know, like we can love a song and then we just don't know how it's going to do until someone else hears it. And it was kind of like that. Like I think we were all pleasantly surprised and we were all kind of like, oh shit, this is actually cool. Like this is better than just a random throwaway song. This is definitely cool. And I mean, that's probably, hence the all right, well let's put a band name on it and do it that, it's not just some random thing that was thrown out there. But I don't think any of us thought this is this is special or this is I don't think we thought anything more of just like, oh, this is a cool song that we wrote with our friends. But yeah, like I say, I don't think you really know until other people hear it. Like when we write songs now, only half of it's ours, and then the other half is people who listen to it and what they think of it and their interpretation. Like we thought Won't Be Like This, when we wrote Won't Be Like This off the latest record, that came together really easily and quickly, and we were like, fuck, this is huge, this is a great song, this is like the best thing ever. And people, like fans, obviously like it, but it's not like we didn't get the reception that we thought it would. And that's not, not that we were bummed or anything like that, but it is just, you can never really tell.
The Rain in July EP, to me, this is the holy grail, like of neck deep collectibles or just neck deep lore.
For sure.
Who,
Yeah.
to set the record straight, who officially plays what on this? Because I think the version most folks know is the remixed and remastered version that you did. That was on Hopeless, I think 2014-ish, with the other EP. But who plays on this one?
So the only people that play on that EP are Lloyd and Ben. The drums are programmed, they're like MIDI drums, and the bass was MIDI too. The bass was a MIDI bass. Because again, at the time when we were doing that EP and writing that stuff, it wasn't a band, It was just fucking around in my bedroom basically. So it was never, yeah, we didn't do anything. So it's only Ben and Lloyd on those EPs. With the remastered, I have a feeling we retracked bass. I feel like Phil tracked bass for the remaster, but I'm pretty sure we definitely didn't retrack drums for
Oh, wow.
the remasters. So the remasters are still just MIDI, probably different samples and things like that. But yeah, those drums are MIDI drums too. Wishful Thinking was the first time that Danny played on a record.
The band name Neck Deep, I've always heard it came from the Crucial Dude song. Ben like came up with it on a whim. Was there any other name that had some traction, or was it boom, Neck Deep?
That was it, man. I think it was just Neck Deep. I don't think there was any other. Maybe Ben would have some that he was like floating around in his head, but as far as I'm aware, there was never any other contenders for for band names. And we talk about it sometimes now. Like I'm stoked that we're called Neck Deep. I'm glad that we can get to like 30 years old and be like, cool, Neck Deep is still it's a good name. Like 15, 16-year-old us didn't pick a shit band name that we're now like, oh, that kind of sucks.
Yeah.
But yeah, Neck Deep's good. It's 4 and 4. It looks good together, like 4 letters. Yeah, I'm happy that and that's probably why there was no other names, because it was just like, cool, that's a good name.
That's sick. You
Yeah.
guys released the Rain in July EP. You released I Couldn't Wait. A Part of Me's blowing up. Like at that point in time, are you thinking, okay, this is a little more serious than just a random song we dropped in April?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I think within the first few months, we were like, oh shit, this is actually doing something. People fucking like this stuff. And a lot from America too. That was something we definitely noticed different than previous bands that we'd been in, was like, oh, people overseas like this. It's not just like local people or people from our country. It's like mostly people from America. And Tumblr was a big thing, a big part of it at the time. I remember Tumblr being, yeah, and like none of us really used Tumblr, but then when the band started, we were like, oh, we're doing well on this thing, and going on Tumblr and seeing, I think it was notes that were like the reshares or whatever they're called, and I was like, oh shit, that's got fucking 500 reshares, or that kind of thing. But I think the first tour that happened was in the December of that year. So we put the song out in April, and then I'm pretty sure the band went on tour with Me Versus Hero and With the Punches. And I don't even think that Neck Deep were on the whole tour. I think it was maybe like 7 or 8 dates, but then Neck Deep were on 4 or 5 of them. That's where those tapes came from too, if I remember correctly. Or there was a Tour Dog edition of the tape, and I'm trying to think where the other tape came from. I think it was maybe Pinky Swear did that as well. But yeah, we knew that it was something was happening within the first few months, and I still have a memory on my Facebook pop up sometimes like my brother's band is 3 likes away from 1,000 likes on Facebook, so go and follow. And I think that was within like 2 or 3 months, and even by that metric, we were like, holy shit, fucking 1,000 people followed this band within 2 or 3 months. Um, but then after, I think it was December, I think it was that tour that our previous manager, Leander, came out to one of those shows, and he was working with En Shikari at the time, who I already mentioned like earlier on. So he was from like an actual company who had like an office and things like that. But he came to the band's first ever London show, and yeah, man, it happened quick. Those are some fucking those are the crazy the best times. And even even just me living that vicariously, like just watching it all unfold online was like the fucking coolest shit. Yeah.
It's crazy, dude. Like, I mean, they start playing shows in December. Rain in July is September-ish, 2012. They start
Sure.
playing shows in December, and dude, really haven't stopped since. I mean, they hit the ground running, you guys did. So is that something that did Leander, or did you like was there any advice that was given to you guys during that time period of like, you have got to tour and jump on this now? Or was it just, hey, we're gonna go play some shows and see how it goes?
I think it was just play some shows and see how it goes. I don't think there was any like coaching or like managing of the like expectations, because at this like it was all happening so fast anyway that like there wasn't really anything that was this is how you deal with it sort of thing. And we're not fucking pop stars. It wasn't some like out of nowhere like rise, but it was still like a dream. And like I say, Ben's thing was I just want to play one show. To then the first show being on a tour with 2 other pop punk bands in front of 200-300 people, like, and even on those first shows, like, knew that it was like, oh shit, people know the words. People like came to see the band. But there was never any like, here's what to expect, because I don't think anyone really knew what to expect. It kind of just happened so quickly and so fast that, like you said, before we knew it, it was just like, cool, there's more tour offers, there's more things to do. And maybe the first, like 2013 was maybe a little slower on the tours. I'm trying to remember what happened that year. There was a tour with a band called Attention Thieves, who I think were on the same management that we were on at the time. And that was like a 2 or 3 week UK tour. And there was definitely some like weird, like random buttfuck towns that they played. There's always a story they talk about where they played like a youth center, like a kids kind of like youth center, and there was like a snack bar and like just like no one there. So there was, even though it happened really quickly, there was definitely some dues paid and like playing shitty shows to nobody. And most of the guys in the band had been in touring bands before, so like they were used to rocking up and playing to nobody anyway. So if they rocked up and played to 30 or 40 people, it was like, cool, that was a good show. Whereas Ben was just fucking loving it all anyway. Like there was no downside to him. It was his first time, but yeah, it kind of all just happened like really quickly. I think 2013 was when we probably wrote Wishful Thinking. Um, I'm trying to think. 2014, it came out in 2014, so we must have written that through 2013. I can't remember when it was like recorded and released, so I'm trying to like work backwards. Was it like, did it come out in August?
So yeah, because 2013, you're touring like right off the bat. Neck Deep continues to tour. They go to the U.S. for the first time. That's April-ish. Legend has it, Hopeless finds video of that or sees some traction, gets signed to Hopeless, and then yeah, Wishful Thinking starts unfolding, which you produced. So I'm wondering, like, with the momentum going there, is that something where you're like, okay, I can produce all this? How do you get tapped into as the producer for that?
I don't know. I think it was just we've all worked together for so long. Like we know what we're doing. Like it was my first album that I ever recorded too. Like everything before that was like EPs or singles and things like that. Um, and me and Lloyd were a good partnership. Like we understood each other and got each other, and yeah, it was just natural. I don't think for that first one there was ever any like consideration of anywhere else that we would do it. It's just like, oh, we'll just do the same again. Let's keep it going. And first record, there was no like, didn't really feel like any pressure or expectations. It was just fun and like, cool. Let's just see what happens and throw it all out there. But yeah, 20 like you mentioned the Florida shows in they must have been 2013. Um, yeah, they will have been 2013 for sure. But as you say, it was around April times, like a year after the ban. But I remember that being crazy too. Of just they found cheap flights. There was no plans of shows. It was just let's go out there and try and book a show while we're out there. Because Lloyd was a big theme park guy, so he was just like, I just want to go to the fucking theme parks, and we can get return flights for like I think he found them really cheap for like £100 or something. So it's like a no-brainer of just like even if we don't play shows, like let's just let's just go on a vacation and go to a theme park. But they played one house show that had like 100 or 200 kids turn up, and that was pretty fucking crazy and like eye-opening. And like I was like FaceTiming them and stuff when they were there, and they were showing me the line, and yeah, that was wild. And then they played Tampa. Is it like Epic Problem? I think was maybe the name of it. It was like it's one of the skate parks, like a big skate park. I remember Ben met Eric Costin there, which he was also like stoked about. But then that was crazy. That was like a 200, 300 people on just like a whim of like, hey, we're coming over next week. We're gonna play these two shows, and yeah, wild, really wild.
When you listen back to Wishful Thinking, or I guess I should ask, do you ever go back and listen to that old stuff? Like, does that still stand out to you or hold its own, or does it just drive you nuts with stuff you would tweak or whatever?
No, I still like it. Like I maybe like once a year or once every like 18 months I'll go back through the catalog and listen to stuff. And sometimes me and Laura in the car will like throw on random neck deep songs. She listens to a lot of music. She's a dog walker, so she's always got headphones and stuff in, and random neck deep songs come on her playlists and stuff sometimes. So yeah, I definitely go back through the older stuff and listen to it. And I love wishful thinking. Like, yeah, I feel that way about a lot of the music that I work on is like once it's done and out there and released, like I don't really have too much of a like tie to it. Like there's always bits and bobs that will come up and be like, oh, we would have done this differently. But it's I don't know. Like Ben talks about it sometimes of like, oh, I would do things so differently and I would write this, but it's like you're only thinking of that with the brain you have now after writing like 100 extra songs. So of course you're gonna like see things differently. But like that's a snapshot of who we were at the time and what with what we had available. So yeah, I definitely look back fondly on everything we've done. There's nothing that I look back on and think, oh, fuck this, or I would do this differently. Like yeah, I'm really proud of fucking everything we've done, and I like Wishful Thinking, man. Wishful Thinking it's a good record. Like
Yeah,
this, it's good.
I agree. It reminds me like your guys' discography, it reminds me so much of Blink in the sense that there's like Wishful Thinking. I kind of liken it to your Dude Ranch in that it's like a little bit raw, maybe a little bit like more punky, but you can totally hear like the melodic pop punk and like where you guys are getting ready to go. Next, this leads perfect into what I'm gonna hit on next. Life's Not Out to Get You, like pop punk perfection in my mind, just like Blink did with Enema. So let's transition to Life's Not Out to Get You. This was huge record for the band. I mean, if you hadn't heard of Neck Deep prior, you did at this point. It's interesting to me. So at this point, they go with Jeremy McKinnon, Andrew Wade to produce that. Is that a conscious decision that you felt the band needed to go work with somebody else? You're still there, of course, but how did that conversation play out with the band or whatever?
I can't really remember too hard how the like Jeremy and Wade thing came up. I think like there was never like I was never what's the word I'm looking for? I was never like possessive of like, nah, it has to be me because I was always writing and demoing with the band anyway. So like I always had my like fingerprint on everything and like my involvement was always like writing and recording. So there was definitely no beef or like resentment or anything. And I've always just wanted what's best for the band. So like I was stoked to be like, oh shit, fucking, you can go and work with these cool producers, and Lloyd loved A Day to Remember, and Phil loved A Day to Remember. So it was a big deal for those guys, but I can't really remember how the like thing happened. Maybe I want to say the band was talking to or had meetings with a couple different producers at the time, but um, those two were just stoked and they were just into it. And it's been a thing with Neck Deep. Like we've tried to follow enthusiasm and who is like, you can tell who's like genuinely into something and who's just doing it for the paycheck. But yeah, they were really into it. But I don't think any of us realized at the time, like I didn't think it was any different than wishful thinking. Like I wasn't like, oh shit, we've done something crazy, or we've done this big thing. It was just, let's just keep doing what we do and hope it works, and it did, I guess. Like we started writing that record already like in 2014, but then the band were on Warped Tour 2014. And then I think maybe halfway through that tour, Lloyd found out that his girlfriend was pregnant and she was going to have a baby at some point. I can't really, again, timeline of it was weird. But we then had to push all the like writing forward. So he didn't miss the birth of his first child. So I got a call like a week before. They were like halfway through Warped Tour, and I flew out to Warped Tour for the last 2 weeks, so me and Lloyd could demo on the bandwagon on the bus on Warped Tour, and that was cool. That was something I'll always remember, and writing a bunch of those songs on Warped Tour. But yeah, it's weird. I don't think any of us were like, this is gonna be the shit, or this is way better than the last record. And I remember thinking that before they went to the studio with Wade and Jeremy, like Ben didn't really have any lyrics, or like maybe he had some, but we definitely didn't demo that many vocals. Like he did the majority of writing while they were recording. And we had all like instrumentals were pretty much all done and demoed, and like instrumentally not that much changed, which I was stoked and surprised about. From like the songs that we wrote, it was like, oh, they're pretty much the same. Like there's nothing crazy that has changed. But they wrote a couple songs with Tom Denny too. They went out maybe like a couple weeks before, or a week before, and wrote, what did they write with Tom Denny? They wrote Serpents, Gold Steps, and Smooth Seas with Tom Denny. But then the rest we did. Yeah, I don't know, man. It kind of just happened. Like we weren't, it was even the expectation thing again. Like we weren't really bothered about what comes next. Like we were living the dream and riding the wave. So it was like, fuck it. Like even if this all ends tomorrow, it's like we've already done so much that we never ever thought we would be able to do. So fuck it. Like let's just write what we're good at and do stuff that we're stoked on and hope for the best. And then yeah, people really liked it, and here we are.
Yeah, I mean, geez, 10-year anniversary of that record's coming up. That's crazy to me to begin with. But yeah, the fact that people are still like love that album, super stoked about it. I mean, I'm gonna go out on a limb and hope and pray that you guys are doing something related to that at some point later this year, maybe.
Yeah,
But
we would like to. We would like to. We've been talking about it. We're planning some stuff. But yeah, it's been one of those things that we've been like kind of sensitive about in a way, because we don't want to be that band already that is like, we do anniversary tours. Like I don't know, it is a weird one, but like ultimately it comes down to fans, and we don't want to turn our nose up at what people want. So it's this fine balance always. It's the same with like writing music too, of like doing what is true to us and what we enjoy and what feels genuine, while also still remembering like why we're where we are. And that's because of fans. So it's always keeping that in mind. And it was a all roads lead back to Blink, but it was a interview of Jerry Finn I read years ago, and it was something he'd said to them, and it was to not slap your audience in the face, basically, like remember where you came from, what people like you for, what you're good at. So that's always a thread in our mind. But yeah, with the Lifestyle to Get You stuff, like we'll do something. We're planning a couple things and thinking about it, but yeah, it's a balance, and we also don't want to like take the piss out of our fans, and like we don't like I say, we always have our fans at the forefront of our mind, and we never want to make it like we're taking advantage of people or like ripping people off, or and it's the balance too of like we would love to, everyone that wants to come to a show and see Life's Not to Get You in full, we want to do that. But then we don't want to do 4 weeks of Life's Not to Get You, or like, so it's a balance, and we're still figuring out that balance and trying to figure out exactly what it is we want to do. But yeah, we came to the thing of like people want this really badly, and it means a lot to a lot of people, so we will honor that too. And it's not like we're turning our back on any, like, there's no resentment of like people only like this stuff, because I don't care what people like. Like, if people like Neck Deep, they like Neck Deep. I don't care if that's your favorite album and this one isn't your favorite album. Like, that doesn't bother me. Like, people like what they like, and we'll do our best to serve that, while also trying to keep the balance of being honest and genuine to ourselves.
Yeah, it's a tough thing we ask of artists where, like you guys, you write Life's Not Out to Get You. There's some people like that's the masterpiece, their most iconic album, but then you don't want to just keep recreating the same stuff. And especially when it comes to to live performances, you can't just play Life's Not Out to Get You all day, every day. I mean, you as artists want to continue making new music and then obviously play that music live. I think you guys do a great job of balancing it, but I do understand from a fan's perspective. I try to take myself out of like a hardcore fan's shoes sometimes. Like obviously with you guys and Blink and like Newfound Glory, I know the songs and want to hear the deep cuts. But if I go to a random show, like I don't necessarily want to hear a random new song that nobody knows. It's a weird balance. You're right.
For sure, man. It's the same with me. Like, I saw Slipknot for the first time recently, and they're one of my favorite bands. And I'd never, up until a few months ago, I'd never seen them live. But I went to watch them do the self-titled Slipknot record in full, and that's my favorite record. So I was stoked. But it's the same with me when if I go to a show, is like I want to hear songs that I know. I want to go and see the starting line, and I want to hear them play the best of me. Like, it is what it is. So yeah, I would be disappointed if I went to a show of a band that I loved and it was mostly new stuff. I don't know. Again, it's a balance, man. Set lists are always hard. We go back and forth a bunch, and there's loads of factors to take into it. But yeah, I think we know what we're doing.
Yeah. The follow-up to that, and it's always fascinating to me coming off a successful record, you have to follow up with something, hopefully at least equal to or superior to that. It's
Yeah.
time for the Peace and the Panic. And again, the Blink parallel, man. Like to me, this is lyrically darker, the whole vibe, like it's a little bit heavier, and I liken it to Blink coming off of Enema, going into Take Off Your Pants and Jacket. It's just the next step in the evolution of a pop punk band per se. But what are your thoughts, like, I guess, looking back on that era? Is there anything that sticks out to you?
It's a little bit of what you kind of just said, of like not wanting to just write Life's Not Out to Get You again. I think that's kind of where we were at with that record, was like, okay, we've done the pop punk record, let's try something else, or like let's, I don't know, make ourselves uncomfortable, maybe. Like, let's try and like branch out a little bit. Like, Ben's songwriting, like he likes a lot of folk music, and like indie music and things like that. So that was definitely a part of it. And again, it's the balance of like trying to be true to ourselves and write music that is fulfilling to us, while also remembering where we came from. But Peace and the Panic, that era, I'm trying to put myself back there. I know we went to Mono Valley Recording Studios, which is where we recorded All Distortions Are Intentional. But we rented that place out for like 2 weeks, I think. And we didn't even use the studio. We set up in like the kitchen and stuff, and wrote a bunch of the Peace and the Panic at that studio, without actually using the studio. But we had like a live room and like drums and stuff set up. But most of the time with Neck Deep, it's just like a laptop or like sat at the computer. Like, we've never really written songs with everyone jamming in a room before. Apart from Low Life. Low Life was a little bit jammy, but I'm trying to remember. I mean, the Peace and the Panic, the big one was like my dad died in 2016. So that was a big like lyrical theme for Ben, I think, of just grief and loss and life and what comes after. And I don't know. I guess I said that helped. But that was definitely like the big theme for that. So it would have been weird to go, thematically to go from Life's Not Out to Get You, which is a super optimistic, like uplifting record, to then try and force another optimistic, uplifting record when our dad just died. So that definitely influenced the path to take. Like he couldn't go and write he didn't believe that like life was okay. Life sucks sometimes, but that's the whole point in the title of it. The good and the bad, the peace and the panic, the yin and the yang. Trying to think of songs on that record of like Parachute, super like uplifting and happy. Motion Sickness is pretty uplifting and happy, but then you have songs like Don't Wait or 1970 something. That's one thing I remember about that record around that time when they were recording that record. We demoed a bunch with myself as usual, and then they went and recorded that record with Mike Green. But I didn't have anything to do with 1970 something. I didn't know anything about that song or existed, and every couple of days I would check in and be like, "Oh, you got any bounces for me? If you got any like new, how stuff's sounding, can you email me some stuff?" And they would email me stuff, and then Sam emailed me 1970 something out of the blue with like no trigger warning or anything, and it was just like, "Oh, here's what we worked on today." And I was like, "Fuck!" Listen to it, like crying and shit. I was like, "Damn, you could have fucking warned me that it was this." But yeah.
A song like In Bloom, I mean, still the closer to this day.
Mm-hmm.
How does a song like that come together? I'm curious, even generally creatively amongst you guys, is it typically starting with a riff? Does it start with a random melody that pops in Ben's head, your head, Sam? Like, how did that song come together? And then I guess in general, how does it work for you guys?
So In Bloom came together. That was a Ben song. That was like a Ben jam. And me and Ben were both still living at home with my parents. Or yeah, that's another cool one with In Bloom was like my dad was still around for half of that song. So with In Bloom, Ben had written the first verse and the chorus just on an acoustic guitar, and then we spent a day or two at my computer and put drums and real guitars and stuff down, and we just had the intro, verse, and chorus for a long time, or like 6 months or something like that. We had that for a while, and then Sam came and wrote the second verse, and we finished it with Sam. But yeah, and Bloom's a cool one because it, like I say, my dad heard half that song, which is kind of cool, which is kind of nice as well. Yeah, that was a one that came together pretty quickly too. Like I said earlier about Won't Be Like This, In Bloom kind of fell into place and came together, and both felt the vibe of like when I heard Ben playing it on an acoustic, and I was like, okay, cool, I know where this is going. So that was really fun, and that maybe was one of those songs where maybe we weren't like, oh, this is going to be special, or like this, not in like a monetary or a materialistic way of like, oh, this is going to do so much for us, but like it felt special, like it meant something, it felt good. Um, but in the broader sense of like writing, it usually starts with music. It usually starts with guitars. Some of the stuff that Ben has written usually is him and an acoustic. Like Ben wrote a lot of Low Life and like In Bloom. I'm trying to think of other Ben songs. I can't remember. There's a couple, but they usually start with vocals and Ben on an acoustic, and then we'll neck deepify it later. But yeah, it usually starts with either me or Sam with the demo. Like we'll either most of the time it's like we'll do it solo. Like I'll sit at my computer and do my thing and put it together and show it to the rest of the guys. And if it passes the cool, we like this test, then me and Sam and the rest of the band will get together in a room and then piece it together and go for another layer of people. But yeah, it usually starts with instrumentals and a riff or a feeling or a vibe, or but it's pretty much always has been that way of like, we'll get the instrumental demo done first and then give it to Ben and he'll write lyrics, and then sometimes it changes again and he's like, oh, this bit needs to be longer, or can we put a gap here, or this is too long or whatever. But yeah, it's usually instrumental demos first and Ben does lyrics on top. But he's we did some me and Ben did some writing yesterday, and did some lyrical stuff, and he likes, I think he just needs reassurance sometimes that he can write lyrics. Because it's one of those two, like, after how many years we've been doing this, it's like, I don't know how many songs we have in our catalog now. Maybe it's like 70 or 80. I don't really know, but like, I want to say it's like, writing hundreds of songs, even with like demos and, stuff we've never used and things like that, is like, I don't know, it gets kind of hard. You second guess yourself, and, it's not like those early days of like wishful thinking or Life Starting to Get You, where you've got nothing to prove and nothing to lose. And it's just like, ah, fuck it, we'll just do our best. Whereas now, like, you've got so much context in your head of like, oh shit, there's actually people listening to this. Like, so, and it kind of throws it off. It's it's the balance thing of like trying to remember what you're good at and what you're known for and what you like, while still trying to keep it fresh. Yeah.
Hey, Wish You Were Here. Dude, I feel like that song just blew up overnight in Indonesia, and it's like your guys' biggest song ever just because of them. How did that play out for you guys?
In what sense?
Just like, did you wake up one day and the streaming numbers of that, because it wasn't even a single. I mean, did the streaming numbers just quadruple overnight and you guys were like, what the fuck, this is coming from Indonesia, what's happening?
Yeah, kind of. Like, I don't seem to remember there being like any like, oh shit, this, I can't remember like even when it blew up. I feel like it blew up even like years after The Beast and the Panic came out. Like, I feel like it started blowing up in like 2019 or 2020 or something like that. But yeah, that song's fucking huge in Indonesia and Southeast Asia. Like, it was in like Indonesia's like actual single charts for ages, for a long time. But yeah, it's a weird one because no one, we never hear anyone really mention that song outside of Southeast Asia, and we never play it anywhere other than Southeast Asia. But in Southeast Asia, it's fucking huge. Like, it's crazy. Yeah,
it's crazy, dude. Even like on Neck Deep News or whatever, like kids from over there will tag me in that. It's just like the biggest thing ever for them. And it's cool that obviously when you guys play over there, like, I mean, the fan base, your guys' fan base is spread throughout, which is amazing to begin with. But when you guys played there, you played that live, which is a rare treat. I mean, that hadn't been played since Peace and the Panic era. So that was cool. You guys did that for them.
For sure. Yeah, it's the one now. We've got to play it anytime we go over there, because that's kind of why we're there. But yeah, I'm grateful for, each and every fan, and that we get to play music anywhere, full stop. But like, it's crazy that we just have this huge following in Southeast Asia. Like, we're playing Manila, which is in the Philippines, in April or May or something like that, and because we're doing an Australian tour and a Japanese tour, and we're doing Manila and Singapore like on the way home. I think like that show's nearly sold out. It nearly sold out on like the first day, and that's like 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 tickets. I don't really know, but yeah, crazy that we get to go over there, and for people where like English isn't their first language, and we can still connect with them, and like they're fucking crazy too. They're wild. Like, shows are wild, and like we feel like celebrities when we go over there, which is weird. Like, we're like the furthest removed from like celebrity ever, but like when we go over there, there's like kids waiting at the airport, kids waiting at the hotel, and like it's wild. It's a wild time out there, but it's amazing. It's very cool that side of the world fucks with Neck Deep.
Yeah, it's pretty sick. 2020 rolls around. All Distortions Are Intentional. Dude, I love this album. Like, to me, this is a masterpiece. It's a concept album. I think maybe for a lot of Neck Deep fans, maybe it wasn't that Warped Tour pop punk sound that they were expecting. I think in the band's eyes, COVID has kind of destroyed the mental image of this era for you guys. Looking back on that era, because this is when you joined the band as well, is it fond memories? Is it terrible? Because I get the vibe that you guys really don't like that time period too much, but I hope I'm kind of wrong.
Yeah, it's a weird one. I think COVID definitely fucked it up and have some that kind of clouds a lot of things on it. Um, but we knew that we were being weird on that record. Like we were talking like I've mentioned a couple times of the balance of, what fans expect versus what you want to do and meeting it somewhere in the middle. And on that record, we definitely didn't have the fan at the forefront of our minds, which so that's fine too. Like I'm not a huge Rick Rubin guy. Like he's whatever, but like one of his things is like fuck everyone. Like don't change anything that you don't want to change. Like it's about you, and the moment you change the thing that you don't like is the moment it's fucked or whatever. So, and I don't know. We needed to do that record. Like we needed to get that out of our system. I'm not in a bad way of just like, oh, look, we need to get rid of this feeling, but like we needed that stepping stone and we needed that output to, yeah, we needed to do that. And like I say, I'm proud of every Neck Deep record. I'm not gonna, and I don't want to or need to like talk shit about that record because I had just as much fun, if not more fun, making that record than a bunch of other records. Like I say, we went to with A Piece in the Panic. We rented a studio called Mono Valley Studios, which is in South Wales. So we were still in our home country. And we were there for like 6 weeks or 7 weeks or something like that. And it's a residential studio. So, it was cool. It had like a games room and a living room, and everyone had their own bedrooms. And like we just lived and made the record, which was cool. We did that with Matt Squire, who just done like the Piece in the Panic, Panic at the Disco, and a bunch of other bands that I'm blanking on right now. But Matt Squire was a really cool dude. He was a very good hang. But I was there for the whole process for that, which was cool. That was the first one. So, they did Life's Not Out to Get You and Peace in the Panic with other producers in America, but that was the first record back for me since Wishful Thinking to be in the studio and there every day. And so that was cool for me. And I have a lot of good memories of making that record. Um, but yeah, definitely a weird one for sure. But we knew it was weird and we still know it's weird. And I guess like whether it's COVID that kind of did it or not, like we knew that it was going to be weird and divisive. And it was always like I think like maybe the success of In Bloom was like In Bloom is kind of like wouldn't have been too out of place on ADAI, and it was more pulling the In Bloom thread rather than the motion sickness thread. Um, but yeah, it's I'm not gonna lie, it's always like I don't know. I'm trying to pick my words, so I'm like not I don't know, I'm not shitting on it, but it's like it always sucks if people don't like your music. I don't know, like
Yeah,
even that's too strong. Like it, because not everyone's gonna like your music. Like I don't give a
right.
fuck if you're not a fan of Neck Deep and you don't like Neck Deep. That's fine. Or like, and in the same breath, I'm not bothered if like people like Drain in July and they fucking hate Lifestyle to Get You, or everyone's different, so I'm not bothered. But like, yeah, it definitely felt like people weren't as into that one at the time. And then COVID on top, where we couldn't get out there and prove it and like show people it live and talk about it more than we wanted to. We're all stuck behind screens. But now, like 5 years later, it's kind of come around, and I do see a lot more love for ADAI, and I do see people say it's their favorite record. And this is it. So you can get caught in the weeds, and like I think everyone is sort of programmed a little bit to look for the negative and to look for like the shit talking. And I'm sure you've been told and you've seen it a bunch of times where it's like you can have a billion good comments, but it's that one bad comment that you're like, damn, that's fucked my day up. Or
Oh
you
yeah.
focus on that a lot. So yeah, a weird time for sure, a weird record that I love, and there's still a bunch of songs on there that are really cool. We wrote a bunch of those songs with Josh Halling, who was playing bass for Neck Deep at the time. He's a photographer. But Josh has a really eclectic music taste, and he's again like similar to Ben, he's into like a lot of like indie and rock music. So Josh's flavor is all over that record too. Um, but then at the end of that record, that was when I kind of officially joined Neck Deep. Was like in the last few days of studio time and things were wrapping up, and we all went and got drunk in a Weatherspoons, which is like a pub or whatever. We went and got drunk there, and they sort of asked me or been like, oh, it'd be cool if you would do it or whatever. And I was like, oh, fuck it, I'll do it now. I was like, we'll do it now.
Did
Uh,
Josh know he was done? Because Josh toured with him when I saw you guys open for Blink. And that's
mm-mm,
really where you guys like won me over hardcore, was just seeing Neck Deep open for Blink two or three
mhm.
shows. It's like, oh my God, the live energy was just unreal. But did Josh know, I guess, after that album cycle that he wasn't going to continue as a touring bassist or whatever?
Not really. It was a little bit of a tough one. Like it was like he was enjoying it and he'd just written this record with us that he was proud of, like the rest of us. And then it's kind of hard when like how are you going to compete with Ben's brother and the guy that's wrote and produced a bunch of their records, you know?
Right,
And
right.
I don't think it would have been anyone else. Like they wouldn't have done that if it was anyone else. But Josh wasn't an official member at that point. It was kind of just touring. But in the same breath, like I'm sure Josh is happy now that he is making a shit ton more money and touring cooler and lavishly, like touring with Louis Tomlinson from One Direction.
Dude, I
Uh,
saw his profile the other day because I follow him on the page, and I look, I'm like, dude, he's got like 200,000 followers or something crazy off being a touring photographer or something. I'm like, holy hell.
yeah, he's Louis Tomlinson from One Direction's photographer.
Wow.
Um, but yeah, he landed on his feet. He did
Yeah.
he did okay. And Josh was a photographer. He was our photographer, and we toured with Josh a bunch before that. Um, so yeah, I got a lot of love and a lot of time for Josh.
Leading up to that, I mean, was there ever a point where you were thinking, man, I should have joined, like when they needed help with the Blink tour or whatever? Like, had it crossed your mind to join, or were you totally cool behind the scenes at that point?
I was cool behind the scenes. Yeah, there's never really been any like, I wish I did it. Maybe in those like early days, like there's definitely some FOMO. Like when they went out to do those house shows in Florida for the first time, like played those first American shows, there was for sure some FOMO. And then like first US tour when they did like tour diaries and stuff. But like, yeah, I was never resentful. Well, I mean, there was no one to be resentful of. It was my choice anyway. But like, I was never too fucked up over it for sure. Like
Yeah.
I was happy. I was still working in music and like their success was my success. Like because Neck Deep did well, I did well. So like I was still reaping the rewards from the success too. So yeah, never really any like never really any too much FOMO. But yeah, when
So
it came around and it was like, okay, well, like I say, you're on buses and there's hotels and schedules and we can do it a little bit more comfortably. Cool.
so the timing just seemed right, I guess, at this point.
Yeah, for sure.
So at this point, I mean, you hadn't played live in 10 years or something, and you go from no shows to larger shows. I mean, were you nervous as fuck or confident, or what were you feeling?
My first show with the band, well, we did some acoustic shows, which were a nice little warm up. We did some acoustic stuff. But that shit's scary too. Like I feel like I'm more scared by like intimate acoustic stuff than actual big shows now anyway. Like it's weird. It's like being naked a little bit. Like it is super naked to be there and just have our instruments and be live in that raw form. But my first proper show with Neck Deep it was a download festival pilot. So it was 2021 and it was one of the first, if not the first festival to kind of post COVID, even though 2021 was still COVID, like the first big music thing that they did. And it was still like, super heavy COVID restrictions. And no, to be fair, I think that's why it was a pilot, because like there was no masks and like
Mm.
restrictions had been lifted and they, used to attendees and stuff still had to test and like provide negative tests. And I'm sure you remember like those first kind of shows back were pretty strict. But that was my first show with Net Deep, was the download pilot, and I was so fucking nervous. Like I was puking all morning of just like nerves. But since that one, I've not been nervous since. I think it was just that first one, just like getting it out of the way and like knowing the feeling. And the show was great. and it had been a year of everyone being inside. And I think, I think that was probably part of the nerves and the anxiety and stuff too. It's just like, oh fuck, like I'm back in the real world and there's 10,000 people when everyone has been locked inside and on their own for so long. But yeah, that first show was super nerve-wracking, but then everything after that, I don't really get nervous. And like I say, when I was younger, I'd played shows and always felt comfortable on stage, which is a little bit weird because I'm kind of like a reserved person and kind of anxious and kind of shy. Like I'm definitely not extroverted. So yeah, it's a little weird that I feel that comfortable on stage. But ever since that first show, like I don't give a shit. Like I'm good to go.
That's got to be I mean, that's a big first show.
It
Oh my
was it
God.
was a big first show. But those big, like I say, like with the acoustic stuff, like those still and always do feel like more vulnerable than those big ones. Like I feel like the bigger the show gets, the kind of like sillier it is almost. Like there's like more of a disconnect between people because you can't like it's just a sea of people. So it's just like
Yeah.
I don't know, it kind of feels like a video game almost, like where it's like, this like big shows are like less anxious than like really tight, intimate shows. But Ali Pali, I think we were all nervous before Ali Pali. That was a big deal to like first, biggest headline show, 10,000 people. We had shitloads of video walls and like pirate, effects and stuff. So yeah, I think it was more nervous for that of just like, oh my God, I fucking hope this all goes to plan and is all good. So yeah, I wasn't nervous too much in the like performance and like playing. It was more like, oh, I hope everything looks okay.
Yeah, so when you finally get out, you're able to get out there and play these songs that you've worked on and been behind for years, but now you're performing them live in front of live crowds. Like, was
Mhm.
that a crazy feeling for you?
I don't know, it's weird. Like in a way, yeah, but like I don't know. It's such an odd feeling. Like I think because I've been so involved with Neck Deep for so long that like I've kind of felt a lot of those feelings for a long time anyway. So it just felt kind of normal. Like
Mm.
it felt natural almost. But yeah, it definitely feels cool to play those songs that you've helped write to a live audience for sure. But like I say, after they'd already been a band for 10 years, less than 10 years, but they'd already been a band for a long time. So like the initial feelings of like seeing these videos of them on tour and comments and Twitter and all that crazy stuff, like I feel like I kind of already had my like little dopamine sandwich of like getting the validation almost, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like seeing what people mean to it. So by the time it rolled around of like performing it, I don't know. It's not, I'm not I don't want to sound indifferent. I don't want to sound like it doesn't mean anything to me because it's one of, if not my favorite things of being in a band is playing live and having that reaction and having that interaction with an audience. So it's definitely not nothing, but it wasn't like this big like cathartic thing. I don't know. I don't know, man. There's definitely been times when I felt super cathartic. One of those times was on the Rain in July tour when we did the 10 years of Rain in July. They were super cathartic, and yeah, definitely some moments on that tour where I was like, holy fuck, we're playing these songs that I remember writing in my room, like to a bunch of people in America. So that was kind of cool for me and like a full circle moment. Like I wasn't in the band when when that stuff was popping off. So it was cool to play those songs that mean a lot to me and mean a lot to other people and that I wrote in my bedroom at my mum and dad's house. And that, yeah, there was definitely some moments on that tour where I was like, shit, this is fucking real.
You're right on the verge, I think, of being the longest tenured Neck Deep bassist. Because so you're getting ready to be at like what, 5 years. So before you, Josh, very briefly, Phil was the longest running one, 2012 through 2018. So he had a 6 year run. There's a
Okay.
long lost bassist that nobody remembers. This is like one of my favorite trivia
Oh, yeah,
questions.
nice. Yeah.
And I couldn't wait. There's a different bassist. And I remember when I was just like looking back, I'm like, that's not Phil. Do you
Hmm.
recall who that was? I don't know if most of the listeners will know this, but it's a fun trivia question.
Yeah, that's our friend Sam Jarvis.
Yes.
That's our friend Sam Jarvis. He, Yeah, he was the original Neck Deep bassist for a minute. Like he never played any shows. Never played any
Right.
shows. Phil played all the shows, but yeah, you're right. He was in the I Couldn't Wait to Leave 6 months ago video, and that was like I think that was the first music video we did. I'm pretty sure that was the first ever one we did, and he was in that, and he was down, but he was in university at the time, and he was just like I can't. He was already in another band too called Demoralizer, which was
Mm.
another Spires Climates friendship link. So that's how we know Sam. But then he quit, not that far into the band, and like before our first tour, maybe not even that long before our first tour. And that's when Phil came in and was like, okay, we need a bassist quickly. But yeah, he quit, and I think his friends still rip him and take the piss out of him for that. Like, good on. But thank you, Sam. I might not be here now.
He was Neck Deep's bassist for like a month. I genuinely think it was like a month.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, he wasn't even in any promos. I don't think he was even in any promos. Literally just that video. And we'd planned to go forward with Sam. Like, cool, yeah, Sam's good. Like he already plays bass and he's got his own stuff and has toured a bunch before, so cool. But yeah,
Yeah.
he was just like, I'm out. I could probably find that message somewhere. I could probably dig that message out.
That's funny. So coming off Distortions, you're officially in the band. And again, I liken Distortions to Blink's Untitled, where it's just kind of outside the box. Like you guys felt like you needed to experiment. And from my standpoint, bands can do whatever the fuck they want. So I'm totally cool with it. The
Mhm.
follow-up to that. So there's a little bit of change. You're in the band. Matt Powles joins the band kind of unofficially for a brief period of time. But the next kind of song we get out of that is STFU, absolute banger. And that's, this leads right into the self-titled album, where my understanding is there's a conscious effort in some capacity to get back to what you know best, like a pop punk. I hate saying it that way, but I guess what you know best. What
Yeah.
is that discussion like, I guess, within the band? I mean, it comes time to write new material. Like, is there focus on heavier riffs? Like, what is that discussion like from your standpoint?
I think those discussions are always spread out. I think they're always just like uh, something that we discuss over long periods of time. It's never really like, let's sit down and figure this out. It kind of is just in conversation, in life, in experience that these things come up, when we're on tour or whatever, and we're talking about it. But I don't know, like, I think it was the reaction to ADAI, and whether that's fan reaction or it's COVID reaction or things like that. But it was like, yeah, there was definitely an intention to go back to what we do best, while also still moving forward without just writing Life's Not Out to Get You again. Like, we wanted to do that, but yeah, maybe heavier, maybe I don't know, man. It's doing what we do best. I think that was also something that I don't know if it was ever like discussed in a deep way, but just we all kind of knew. Like ADAI, we felt like we were trying to push the envelope. Like we were trying to be different. We were trying to like go against our instincts in a way. So yeah, it was like I said before, with ADAI being a stepping stone, it was a necessary stepping stone for that, or in no derogatory, like, get it out of our system, but like it led to come back around, and that was it. Like, we didn't want to write another record, one that fans weren't super into, or seemingly not super into at the time, but like we also didn't want to, I don't know, like, I think, go against our instincts and like deny ourselves something. So it was like, let's just do what we're good at. Like, we know what we're good at and we enjoy writing it. Like I'm pop punk through and through. Like, I know pop punk's like, it can be kind of like a lame thing or a lame term. And like, yo, don't get me wrong, like there is a lot of lame pop punk. Like there is,
For sure.
yeah, man, it's so easy to be cringy when you write pop punk music, and that's a fine line we walk too, and like what the balance of like cringy and cheesy is, because sometimes cheesy's good and sometimes cringy's good and sometimes cringy's funny, but like that's still the balance to walk. But like pop punk music to me is the like, I don't know, it's in my DNA. Like I said at the start of this, like the first things I ever learned on guitar and played on guitar was Blink. There was not much outside of pop punk and punk rock that I ever really learned or even cared to learn on guitar. So yeah, it's but we're all different people. There's a lot of different influences in the band. Like I say, Ben is into like folk music or like soulful music like that, or like indie kind of music. Sam likes pop music. I like pop music too, but like Sam likes a lot of pop music. West is like super hardcore and listens to like crazy hardcore bands. Powell's likes metal music. So it's just this blending of things while trying to remember what the core strand of DNA of like Neck Deep is. And outside of music, like the core strand of DNA of Neck Deep for me for a long time has been not thinking you're better than anyone else, or like not, we're losers too, like, or whatever, not calling other people losers, but like we're the same people as the people that come to our shows. Like we are also those people that at one point fucking loved, not that we don't love music, but go to shows and fucking buy merch and buy albums and all the rest. So like, I don't know. I think that I try and keep that DNA when it comes like it's talking about being cringy or cheesy or whatever else is like, I don't know, not taking ourselves too seriously is
Yeah.
another one too. And that's it with pop punk too. Like it's not that serious. Like but again, it's a balance and it's who we are. And like Ben is like pretty political and like has strong values and morals and wants to talk about that stuff. And again, that's punk rock too. Like punk rock is political, punk rock is values and morals and standing up for what you believe in. So yeah, crazy little soup of influences and values and morals and things like that. But to come back around, I don't know if there was any like intentional conversation or like anything that I can pinpoint other than just lots of little mini conversations throughout the year of how the last record did and what we want to do next. And we're always kind of talking about that. Like even, straight after we finished the self-titled record, we were like, oh, let's go. Let's do more. We're not trying to sit around and just wait. So yeah, we're already writing new stuff and working on new things, and we're stoked.
You mentioned going with your instincts. One of the things that's really interesting to me, just in how these albums get made and shaped. My understanding is when it first came time to write and record this, you guys fly out to California, you're working with a producer, and ultimately there's a period of time that passes and somebody says, this isn't working too great. We need to self-produce this. Is that something where, did you get roped into that? Or is it something where you're like, I can produce all this from the comfort of our homes and hometown? Like, how did that play out?
Yeah, I definitely wasn't like roped into it. Like we all knew. We all knew, and it was I always want what's best for the band. Like it's never, there's never any egos. There's never any like, well, I want to do it because I want to do it. It's like I want to do it because I know that's what's best for everyone. But yeah, there was we spent a few weeks doing the record, and it just wasn't going how we wanted it to go, and it wasn't sounding how we wanted it to sound. And no one cares more about our music than we do, and we recognize that with everyone. Like any producer you go to, like they're, as much as they do become the extra member and they can say all the right things, is like no one's going to care as much detail as we're going to care. But it was awkward. It was awkward. It was uncomfortable for weeks. So it was weird. And then to have to pull the plug and be like, let's start again. But ultimately it was worth it, and we knew it was the right thing to do. And we made the record that we wanted to make. And it was fun. It was good. And we did it like it was like doing Wishful Thinking again. Like we just did it with me and us in a room and piecing it together bit by bit, and we got there in the end. I don't know, like it's kind of stressful for me at points. Like it's kind of hard wearing both hats. Like before I was in Neck Deep, I was just producer. So it was like, cool, when my work's done, I'm done. Whereas that was like, I'm producing and I'm taught, I've got to tour these songs and all the rest of it. And there was a point when, like when we first went into it, I was like, I'll mix it too. And then halfway through the record, I was like, I do not want to hear these songs anymore. Like someone else needs to take over and do this, because I'll just fuck this up if I have to listen to these songs again. But I feel like that, like, I think a lot of artists are like that, of like, when one thing is finished, it's like, let's move on to the next, and like kind of bored of it already, or like you've just heard it so many times that it loses its meaning to you, and loses, like, you lose perspective on what you're doing. And then it's only when the record comes out that you kind of get some of that perspective back and get some of the meaning back, when other people hear it and tell you how they interpret it, or what their favorite songs are.
Self-titled drops just over a year ago, really.
Hmm.
How did you guys feel about the fan reception on this one? Because dude, I saw nothing but just glory on this. A killer
Yeah.
album, man. Like blew away my expectations. Just such an amazing album, dude. When I got that Apple Music replay, I was laughing. It's number one artist Neck Deep. Top 10 songs are the 10 from that album. Like number one album easily. How did you guys feel about it?
Yeah, relieved after a few years of, like, the record before that being ADAI, and like having mixed reviews and torn opinions on it. It was nice to it's nice to be validated, man. It's nice to know you still got it, in a way, and nice to know, like, cool, we can still do this, and glad that we know who we are, and we've always known who we are. But yeah, it's very nice to see the love for that record. But like I was just saying, with I'm sure most artists, is like, we always think we can do better, so we're always on to like the next thing, and we were like that immediately. And we basically did that record twice. We did a bunch of that record with one producer, and then started again. So it's like the perspective thing again, of like, are these even good? Like, yes, they're good. Like, people tell us they're good, we're happy with them, but like, we know that we've still got a lot of gas in the tank. And even the handful of songs that we're working on now are like, cool, these are better. They're better again. They're in a similar vein, um, maybe a little heavier, maybe a little, um, I don't know, maybe a little punkier. I don't know.
Mm.
It's still very early days, but yeah, we have a few quote unquote finished, like, demo forms that we really like. One of those songs is, we've had that for a while. Like, we had it when we were writing. When did we do it? Yeah, it must have been around self-titled that we. So one of these songs we've been working on, we've had for like 2-3 years, but coming back to it a couple of years later, fresh ears, new takes, like, starting again on vocals. But yeah, we're stoked, man. We're chipping away, and yeah, happy with everything so far. And it's pretty chilled, like, to get it done.
Yeah, I was going to ask what Neck Deep is up to now. I mean, you haven't shied away from it. Sam publicly posted about it that you're working on some new riffage and then hitting Australia here in a little bit. But is that
Hmm.
the focus right now? Is new music?
Pretty much in between tours. So like, this always happens with Neck Deep. We're like, it'll be a chilled year. Like, this will be a chilled year, and we'll write. It'll be a lot more relaxed writing. But tour offers always come in, and we're always like, yeah, fuck it, let's go tour. Like, we can't turn down Australia. Australia's sick. Oh, Japan. Oh, I'm never gonna turn down Japan. So let's go do Japan. Um, and then we have some other stuff coming up later in the year, which I can't really talk about, but we're all stoked about that. Maybe some Life's Not to Get You stuff. But yeah, everything in between is writing, pretty much. And we did it. We did our first big chunk session after the UK tour that we just did. Sam lives in Nashville now, so it can be a little difficult on, like, a whim, or just at the drop of a hat to get in a room. So we kind of have to plan when we're all going to be in a room together. But like I say, we're all write individually and then bring pieces to each other. But yeah, right after the UK tour, we did like 10 days, 2 weeks of writing together and figuring out demos and stuff. And we got a few songs that we're happy with. Yeah, we're not one of those bands either that, like, you hear about it. It's very rare for us, but you hear like, oh yeah, we got together for a week and we wrote 10 songs. Like, that's never happened for us. Like, we take a lot of time on songs, and we're very intentional with songs. Like, don't get me wrong, sometimes there is the odd song here and there that kind of just happens. And one of those songs that we did was one of Sam's demos, and it came together really quickly, and that's simple. It's really simple and easy, and we're like, cool. Like, that felt weird to be able to just like do that kind of quickly and naturally. But yeah, we're very intentional with our writing, and we spend a lot of time on songs. We're not one of these bands that kind of just can just shit out songs like left, right, and center. Like, there's not many left behind demos and things. Like, there's a handful. I'm sure there's a bunch of like bits and bobs over the years that are floating around, but yeah, generally we take our time with writing, and we sit on things, and there's tweaks, and like I say, we're very intentional with everything.
One more topic, and then I'll get you out of here on rapid fire. In the middle of the tour, US tour, there was a nerd, me, who surprised you with a bass that I personally thought was sick, and I just hoped that you dug it in some capacity and maybe would see it someday in a video or in a photo or something. Have you named the bass? Does it have a name? Is there anything specific you call it? I'm curious.
It doesn't have a name. It doesn't have a name. I've been the same. My girlfriend Laura, she like names our cars and stuff. Like, she has like names for things, but like I've never really named stuff. So it's one of those where no, I've not. But if you've got any suggestions, I'm more than down.
I'll have to think about it. Yeah, I'll have a ponder.
I feel like it has to start with a G because it's green. So it has to start with a G of some kind.
My question is, could you notice any difference in the reverse pickups? Because when I gave it to you, I talked about how Alan and I were debating. Hoppus uses the flipped Seymour Duncan pickups. Were you able to tell any difference on that?
For sure, yeah. It sounds like a Hoppus bass, which is great. Yeah, definitely. I did it. I obviously played it at that first show, and noticed straight away. It's a lot like, trying to find the right words to like describe it, but clanky is the wrong word. Like, but I don't know. It's just got some more like mid-range bite to it. Like, yeah, it just sounds like a Hoppus bass, which the Blink bass tones are the fucking best. Like, I always reference those. Like, Online Songs is one that was always in my like references for bass tones and stuff like that. So yeah, I love it. We used it to write and demo some new stuff. It's getting set up right now to do some more writing and recording and stuff. So yeah, I fucking love it. It's very cool.
Sick, man.
And still genuinely the nicest and most thoughtful gift I've ever received, and was like blown away by the generosity and the thought. And yeah, I was so stoked, man. Still am stoked. So thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I'd love to speak to Alan and maybe try and do another one. I'd love to speak to him and try and fucking build another cool bass, because it's awesome.
Hell yeah. Yeah. Shout out Alan Corona for sure. He's the one who built it. He's built a ton of just killer basses. But yeah, I just, I talked about it. I think I did a video on it shortly after it happened, but I was like, it just was a random thought in my head, and I'm just so glad that you like it and you play it. And dude, when I see pictures of you guys and I see it, it's just like the raddest thing ever. So I hope you really dig it. And it seems like you do. You're playing it, so that's a good sign.
Sure. Yeah, man, definitely. You'll see some pictures of it in a studio at some point too.
Sick. All right. Rapid fire. I will get you out of here on this. Do you have a favorite Neck Deep song of all time?
Ooh.
These are like all your little babies.
Yeah, for sure, man. It is. They are my little babies. In Bloom is definitely up there for sure. Both just what it means personally to me, and like how it's, a little bit of a family song, like a parent song and a growing up song, but also what it means to a lot of the people. Trying to think of some deep cuts. I really like Damsel in Distress.
Okay.
I like Damsel in Distress. I like Threat Level Midnight. I'll give you 5. Gold Steps is another one. And what else? What are the songs? Let's throw 1970 something in there too, for a similar reason. That's a pretty deep one. Yeah, I can't listen to that one much, even when, like I say, the yearly listen throughs of records. I'm always bracing myself for that one. That one still gets me.
Yeah. Favorite Neck Deep album?
Album. I think it's got to be Life's Not to Get You.
Okay.
But it's really hard. It's really hard. And I throw that one out there as I'm probably like influenced just by how much it means to other people and like what that did for us. And like, you know, not even musically, like there's elements of all the records that I love a lot. But like we owe so much to Life's Not to Get You. So that's always like a big one for me. But I love the self-titled too. I love the self-titled.
Yeah, nobody's asking me, but dude, self-titled is my number one for sure.
Thank you, man. That's sick. I'm glad. This is it, man. And this is why I'm still like, you know, we've been a band for how long now? 13 years, 12, 13 years that we can still put out music. And especially, you know, after like the success of Life's Not to Get You, that means a lot to people, and that we can still put out music and it becomes people's favorite record. That's amazing. And this, like I said, with ADAI, like I see a lot of ADAI love these days and people putting ADAI up there. So yeah, it's cool.
Hell yeah. I got to tie this back to Blink a little bit. Favorite Blink song all time?
All time. Damn. It's hard. I may give you 3 to 5 again.
Okay.
Man Overboard is up there for sure. These two are a joint because I can't pick, but Going Away to College or Wendy Clear.
Oh yeah.
What else? Love Reckless Abandon. And let's do one off Untitled. Not Now. Not Now is definitely. I love Not Now.
So underrated. I swear to God.
Yeah, not Now is for sure. Like I could say Not Now, and that could go as my Blink favorite song ever. I love that song.
All right, final question, and this is how I pose it. There's a zombie apocalypse. Family, pets are going to be safe. Bus pulls up to pick you up. You can bring one item with you to take forever. What are you grabbing and why?
Ooh. Is internet down?
Internet's down.
Ooh, okay.
I'm thinking like physical, in my mind, I think of it as like a collectible, like a random item.
Yeah. I think around my house.
Maybe your hard drive.
Yeah, a hard drive would be a good shout. Hard drive. I did think a guitar, just so there's like some, but then I don't want to be the guy with an acoustic guitar at the end of the world.
Just play the same fucking songs.
Yeah, just playing fucking Blink songs. Damn, that's tough, man. Physical item, like, I mean, apart from my phone that is like attached to me all the time, like this. I'm trying to think of like other materialistic things that I'm like super into.
Do you collect random shit or?
Yeah, kind of bits and bobs. Like I like posters and prints. Like I've got some cool posters and prints. Do you know this might not be the thing I grab, but like, you know, the Monk One holographic 20-year Blink poster. Do you know which one?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's a prized possession for sure. I've seen someone on eBay listing that for like 700 grand for like 6 months. It's like that's never gonna happen. But
those I like go for a lot.
Yeah, I like to make myself think that it's worth 700 grand, but it's still worth a lot of money. But I don't know. That's just monetary value, even though that's a very sentimental piece and it's got all the cool artwork and all the like different callbacks of the records. But I think I'd maybe grab like I have some illustrations and some like paintings of my dogs. Okay. So I'd maybe grab those. Yeah, I have a little shrine to my dog Izzy as well that we lost a couple of years ago. So maybe grab like an Izzy picture or something like that.
That's a good one. Yeah, stuff that's like not replaceable. You know, originals, things like that.
Yeah.
All right, dude. Man, this was such a pleasure, dude. I appreciate you taking time to jump on the podcast. Is there anything you want to leave the listeners with?
I don't know. Listen to Neck Deep. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to other people. Fuck school, fuck work, fuck jobs. Make music. Spend time with your family and your dogs. Yeah, that's about it.
Love it. Do what makes you happy. For Seb, sure. I hope to see you in a town near me in like 4 or 5 months. Hopefully.
Yeah.
I will bother you if so.
Yeah. I expect no less.
All right. Thanks, dude.
Thanks so much, man. I appreciate you so much. Appreciate you.